Yeah, I think.
Hello, everybody.
Shonda.
Hello.
So, Tom, Alshon. Okay, I think we have the commissioners anyway. I know we have some more guests coming, but okay. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Public Arts Commission of the City of Palm Springs for Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. And I would like to ask Jay to call the roll, please.
Yes. Vice Chair Merrigan.
Yes.
Commissioner Murray.
Here.
Commissioner Gladstone.
Present.
Commissioner Yanni. I know he's here.
Are you muted here?
Present. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Commissioner Pritchard.
Here.
Commissioner Favreau.
You're excited.
Oh dear.
Could
I ask our guests just to identify themselves because we'll want them for the minutes. So I see Michael Emery.
Yes. Hello, Michael Emery.
Okay.
Palm Springs Mural Fest.
Lee Stapleton.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Lee Stapleton, Paint the City Peaceful.
Okay, very good. Drake Pierre.
Hi, everybody. Drake Pierre from Paint the City Peaceful.
Right. And Margaret Park. We don't see you, so we're not sure.
Yeah, hi, I'm here. I'm representing the Agua Caliente Band of Cui Indians.
Oh, very good. Okay. So may I have a motion, please, to accept the agenda from a commissioner?
Accept the agenda as written.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, this is the time that has been set aside for members of the public to address the Public Arts Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission, and agenda items if the member of the public cannot be present later in the meeting at the time each item is heard by the commission. Additionally, members of the public may address the commission on each item listed on the posted agenda at the time each item is heard. Although the Public Arts Commission values your comments, pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda, and 5 minutes are assigned for each speaker. Do we have any members of the public who would like to speak that aren't on the agenda later on? Very good. Then I would like to ask Commissioner Favreau to introduce the group that is giving a presentation about Paint the City Peaceful.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. Paint the City Peaceful is a wonderful organization that I came across when I was in Los Angeles and I was watching the news. And they will be able to greater explain what kind of project we would love to partner with them in order to create here in the city of Palm Springs. Lee, take it away.
Sure. Okay. Thank you guys so much for having us. Thank you, Shonda, and super nice to be virtually connected with all of y'all. It's a huge honor. So yeah, so Drake and I are co-founders of Paint the City Peaceful. This is a collective in Los Angeles currently that formed in response to the lootings in Santa Monica over the summer. Where I'm sitting right now is downtown Santa Monica. I can see from my front porch, you know, the beginning of where kind of all the looting happened. So it's right in my face. And we basically started to not only transform the space of Santa Monica, which was at the time a super dark place, obviously, but we also formed to invent a new narrative and a new way of engaging with creating equality in your community. In this world that we've been living in 2020, I don't think it will shock or surprise anyone that there's been a whole lot of fighting going on and a whole lot of us versus them. And I think we're all smart enough to know that when one side's winning something, that's really cool for the winners and it super isn't cool for the losers, right? And so what we're trying to do at Paint the City is create an everyone wins platform. And the way that we've done that is design our messaging to use art to amplify voice, And the voice that we're amplifying are those that are in support of creating a world that works. And now I'll say that again, creating a world that works. And that's the unique thing about Paint the City. We're not reacting to or dealing with that which does not work in the world today. We're outside of that game, and we're just looking at how to create diversity and equality and inclusivity in the world. So we're nonpartisan, we're totally peace promoting. And because of that, we've been able to build a lot of bridges between specifically community, corporations, businesses, artists, kind of these groups that, you know, they're odd cousins. They don't normally work together to get real change done and real artistic transformation accomplished in Los Angeles this year. So that's a little bit of a background. And if I ramble at any point, please stop me. Now, we wanted to, we're so excited to engage with Palm Springs. It truly is an honor to be with each of you tonight. Again, a lot has happened this year. Things have been shut down. And during that time, there's been just a full-blown revolution in the streets and a huge moment. And as things reopen next year, and as the nation and the world transitions to 2021, what we at Paint the City are now trying to do is partner with communities, partner with government to help these people that you have to support, you know, everyone, not just one stakeholder group. You're looking at all the voices and how to make it work. We're here to partner with those groups to create a message and to create an artistic narrative that supports that and can welcome people back to Palm Springs, you know, shining a light on that which the community stands for around diversity, around education, things of that nature. So to do that, we would like to propose the painting of, to start, 8 boxes in the community. These are going to be boxes that run along Palm Canyon Drive as you come into the downtown district. And basically what it will do is create kind of like a pillar for visitors and residents as they come into downtown to say, okay, we're about to go downtown. This is the vibe that we want to have happen down there. I don't know if anyone went to summer camp, as juvenile as that is. When I went to summer camp, they would have little mile markers set up, you know, and one of them is like, welcome. And, you know, when you get in there, this is what's going on in there. And we're friends and we work together. So we kind of envisioned that sort of a statement, inviting people back into Palm Springs. It expands the downtown area. So not only does it draw more foot traffic to the area because there's more to see and it's intentional art, it's powerful. It also brings people out into the community and kind of serves as a bridge to maybe some less franchise zones of Palm Springs. We have put out a call for artists for this. We've done our legwork, y'all. We got about 80 artists in the loop for it. We've had our team go through each artist and check them not only for quality of work, but also for design style and relevancy to Palm Springs and this beautiful Art Deco and Impressionist culture that is inherent to the art of Palm Springs. So from that 80, we narrowed it down to a group of about 20, I think, artists that we highlighted, like scored them on 1 to 4. We have like a beautiful menu to select from. And then we have 8 community pillars that we envision the artists kind of dedicating each of the boxes to. So for example, when you're on Palm Canyon Drive and you see a box, it'll say, welcome to Palm Springs. Palm Springs is diversity. And then the artist will paint, you know, whatever it means to them to kind of, you know, visualize diversity as the theme. You keep driving. Now you're at the next box. You see next block. You see a box that says Palm Springs is love. And then you have an artist visualize that love statement. And so it feeds in through themes of acceptance, inclusivity, education, peacefulness, of course. And then you get downtown where Shonda's cooking up amazing things with the Bench Project and all the other public arts works y'all are working on. So that is our proposal at light speed.
Okay, does anyone have any questions from the commission or just comments? As I read in that little blurb, we can't approve it because it wasn't on the agenda, but we can, I think, treat it as one of our mini grants, which we've been doing ever since really COVID started. And for that, we have generally assigned or have generated 2 commissioners to work with an artist or a group of artists on a project, as long as it falls within our general guidelines. We originally didn't have electric boxes on our list of things, but partly because Shonda had some of them, we checked and asked, and it was fine for her to arrange to have some of them painted at James O. Jesse in Desert Highlands. So I think that we can say that we have gotten permission to paint selected electric boxes, and that we can use our system of having 2 commissioners work on an individual project. Does anyone have any strong feelings one way or another about doing that with this project, or any questions for this group?
I have a comment, Madam Chair. I think it's a great idea. It's a great project. However, I would be careful with the language. For example, you use the word looting in Los Angeles. Sure, some of that occurred, but a lot of that was civil protest. And I think it's important to incorporate that as well in the artwork. My only concern, in thinking of the voice of the community and being a voice for the community, is that we avoid the old crossing the railroad track kind of thing. You know, well, when you cross this box, you're in the north end. When you cross this box, you're in the rich section of town. But, you know, some people might have a problem with that. I don't know if I'm making sense or not. But our DNA, you know, we didn't experience much looting, if at all, in Palm Springs. Civil unrest. Our DNA is that of civil and peaceful protest. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Al, could we ask you to work with Shonda on these boxes, and if there's another commissioner who'd like to, because these are going to be fairly prominent as you drive into town, and I think a couple of eyes on it to just for that very reason would be worthwhile.
I can help out, yes, but I hope you're understanding what I'm saying.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I think,
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I got that. I wrote it, and I wrote it down too. So I hear you, and I appreciate those comments, as well as your interest in partnering. This proposal does it work for you guys? This is a message that we thought could be wonderful to welcome the throngs of people we know will be back after everything that's happened in the world this year to Palm Springs. But Paint the City is based on partnership and collaboration exclusively. We're here to amplify your voice and your vision. So as we go through this process, I just want to make it super from the beginning. If there's something that doesn't work, if we need to change language, like that's what we're here to do. I'm proud to say that we partnered with the Beverly Center in Los Angeles to create the first corporate statement of solidarity for a public retail space in the United States in September of this year. And because of that experience, we feel very confident that we're able to work with communities that, like you said, like it's a different story. There's different people involved, and we want to represent you and your community the best way. So we're a malleable group. Thank you.
Any other comments, Tom?
I just had a question. I watched the video from ABC7, and it says in the video that your project is up through the end of the year. So I was just curious what kind of arrangements you made with Beverly Center in terms of the length and duration of the piece. And one of the things that we always deal with here in the desert is that the weather is so severe that often people put things up and they don't last very long. So I'm just curious how you worked on that with Beverly Center.
Sure, yeah. So the Beverly Center is a temporary art installation. It's been installed for longer than we had planned for, just because there's been a vacancy in that location in the mall. Now, what we've done to preserve it is we've put, preservative painting over it, and they put a lighting system in to secure it from kind of any sort of vandalization, but it's definitely something we would want to, and I would want to learn more about the type of elements naturally and community-based that might interfere with the art on a sustainable basis. So we're happy to, you know, keep that conversation alive. I'm from hurricane country at the beach, so I know how things wear down, but I'm not a desert girl, so y'all got to help me out a little bit on that.
Yeah, that's a biggie. No, I was just and so when you first did it, did you sign a contract? Like, what did you imagine would happen if that space were rented? So it just is painted over, or like what happens to the work?
Yeah, so we have Spencer, our other co-founder, who's not on the call right now. He's dealing with other business matters. He has a large scale printing and production firm. So that's his company. It's called Graphico. And so what we're gonna do with the Beverly Center art is get high quality, you know, the highest quality, basically photos of it that we can. And then we'll create large scale prints on art that we'll then sell for fundraising across the country.
Okay. And to chime in on that as well, and this is Drake again from Paint the City. What we did at the Beverly Center is actually done on windows. So it's a little bit different versus what we do with you guys versus what our first activation was, which was on all wooden boards. So once again, we just make art happen with, you know, what is.
Is there an arts commission in Santa Monica that you worked with?
Yeah, so the Santa Monica activation happened truly out of sleepless nights and like just the miraculous energy of the community. Going into that project, what we did, it happened in 3 days, y'all. We put out an Instagram idea on Tuesday. It went viral by Tuesday night. We had about 1,000 people who were ready to come out and paint 3 days from then. So that organization is always going to be different than anything else we do. At the time, we did our best to get in touch with the city, the police, you know, the necessary municipal kind of leaders that needed to know that this was happening, and we actually couldn't get in touch. So what we did instead was talk to the former sheriff of Los Angeles, Clyde Terry, who's a personal friend of mine, and say, hey, how can we, these people are coming no matter what, how can we be responsible for them and keep them safe and keep this peaceful after so much has gone down here? So we actually brought out like our own kind of peace promoter squad. We talked to the crowd a lot and throughout the day about partnering with each other to keep peace. And then a beautiful thing happened, which was as we were setting up, the city manager of Santa Monica, Kathleen, was on her morning bike ride, biked by, said, what's going on here? We told her what was going on, and she was so impressed with the idea that she gave us not only approval formally to paint the business fronts that we had gotten business owner approval from, but the entire city of Santa Monica became a campus at that point. So it was kind of like a live partnership. It was unique and not something I think that happens very often, but again, speaks to the potency of creating peace rather than, you know, forcing your kind of view on someone.
Well, we're fortunate we have the assistant city manager sitting here.
Yes.
And I think that what we'll need to do with this project is, if you work with Shonda and Al, first of all, to identify each of the boxes that you want to paint, and we'll run them by Marcus just to see if there's any reason or if they don't belong to us or whatever. And then as far as the designs that you choose with the two of them, it should be fine. It fits within our guidelines for breaking these projects into smaller parts. Okay, so Shonda and Al can, you know, after the meeting or whenever you want to do it, first a map of where these are, and then work with them on what would go on them. And as far as how long they last, that's something we have to work on in general, because we have murals that have been up for a while and just are terrifically faded and chipping, and that's one of the things on our list to do something about. So
yeah,
I wouldn't worry about it for a box. We just painted a whole lot of benches, and we think they'll last a little bit longer because we coated them and everything. So
yeah, we'll have to work out that detail. But yeah, and so our kind of standard policy or protocol, if you'll have it that way, the first thing we want to make sure we're super clear on is, did we hit the mark with the community values that we've set forth to kind of paint themes through thematically? So those are listed in the proposal. If everyone wants to just marinate on them, suggest others additional, we can do whatever with that. We again had our team go through and vet each of the artists and make sure stylistically they could kind of fit within the Palm Springs visual. And then before painting begins, we always get like an artist bio, a why they want to do something, kind of get a feel for like who they are, and make sure that they're on the tip of creating peace rather than, you know, making a statement that might be polarizing. And then we'll get the dimensions and we'll get the actual renderings done. So we'll be able to give you kind of like a visual of this is exactly what it would look like at each of these locations. And we'll just touch and go the whole time. We'll make sure we get everyone's, you know, thoughts and approval on it. We want to do this right. We don't want to do it rushed. So we're more than happy and willing to take time and make sure everyone feels really good about this the whole way through.
Great.
Did we all get a proposal for this?
Yes, to everybody. And also the proposal is for the 8 traffic lights that go from West Gateway Drive all the way to Alejo. So I counted that there are traffic stops, and 2 of those traffic stops have 2 boxes side by side. And the 2 that have boxes side by side are downtown already. So they would, 2 of the boxes that are side by side is in front of Cheeky's, and then Trussell, and there's that bar on the corner there. There's another 2 boxes, and then the boxes that are in front of Bongo Johnny's, I believe those are the ones that have 2 boxes.
I mean, we can't vote on it today. What we can do is move it forward, and I think everyone on the commission would like to see the plan, you know, exactly where the boxes are and what's going to go on them. And I think as long as we're all in the loop and, you know, can certainly call you if there's one or, you know, or a location that's a problem according to Marcus. But I don't think we need to bring it back to the full commission.
And Madam Chair,
just one of our sort of projects.
If I could just last comment, I apologize if I'm out of order. If we could give our guest a copy of our mission statement and to ensure that it's in line with our mission as a commission, I think that would be important for them to have.
That is just a wonderful segue into my report. Because
I need to make a comment. I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mara, and then I'll go after you.
I think this is a good opportunity. I just want to make a note on language. I also agree, like, language is important. I would personally like to see more active language, you know, like words like gratitude, things like that. But in that regard, I would like to request that we consider connecting with our colleagues on the Human Rights Commission, because I know that they are also thinking about this year and a lot of the issues that that were brought up. And so I would just like to, I think it's a good opportunity for us to collaborate across commissions to make sure, like, this messaging that they are requesting, like for various other specific events, holidays, things like that, that there's some, that there's a shared knowledge about what's happening. I think it could be really productive and wonderful for our community.
Mara, could we ask you to make that contact?
I would be very happy to do that.
That would be great. That's an
I second that. That's a great idea, Mara.
I agree. That's a great idea. I'm a little confused because we're not, like, it's not an action item, so I don't know how much we're allowed to talk about it. But I thank you, Lee and Drake, for coming to the meeting and you know, learning more about the Arts Commission and looking into our values and our vision that we have for the city of Palm Springs. I just, in general, and again, I love your project. This is nothing about your particular project. I think it's great. I like what you did at the Beverly Center. I think it was fantastic. I love the idea of artists, you know, using their voice in that way. I'm just, in terms of the larger Arts Commission, there's been a lot of concerned that we're focusing too much on downtown Palm Springs. And so I just want to, not knowing whether we're going to be able to discuss this again or not, I just wanted to go on record as saying, I'm still a little concerned that we're spending too much effort on Palm Canyon Drive and downtown, and not enough effort on some of the other neighborhoods that could use some of our help, and certainly would welcome artists like you coming into their neighborhoods and sharing your vision with them. So I just wanted to put that out there, so since we can't really talk about it. So.
Because we are going to talk about our mission and our objectives for this year and what we would like to send to the city council. I think since we sort of fell into this mini grant and CARES programs and benches because of COVID and wanting to help downtown, we're at a point where we want to make it clear that we're not just doing downtown, and that these CARES grants actually started out as neighborhood grants, but it takes longer for those groups to get organized. So if you would, what I sent out was our mission statement, which I hope you've had a chance to reread so that it's fresh in your mind. I also sent out the CARES grant process that we've been operating under. But if you look at attachment B, these are the objectives that I drafted for the rest of this fiscal year through June 30th. One of them is to continue the mini grant program for neighborhoods, parks, and downtown businesses. So we have been saying all along that we wanted this to be available to neighborhoods. The second is, I would like to see us create a downtown art zone from the museum to Town and Country, and from Alejo to, from Amato to Arenas. And the reason I bring it up now is that I understand, and maybe Marcus, you can help here, there's a meeting on the general plan. Marcus, yes?
I think so. I don't have that information.
Oh, okay, but I hope that we will get ourselves together to give some input to that. A downtown art zone would help, first of all, help the museum become somewhat of a focus so that they are not forgotten off the end of Museum Way. And if we come up with some guidelines for art in the downtown, we'll be able to sort of codify what we've been doing. We've just jumped at every possibility, like benches. And I think if we create an art zone, we can make it more purposeful what we want to do. And this, again, the objective is to create one, not to, I can't tell you what it is yet, but the third objective would be to complete the inventory, maintenance, and repair of the whole city art collection. And that we'll get a report on from Tom. And the fourth objective is to continue to work with artists, contractors, to manage contracts, work with other city departments and social media in order to achieve these objectives. We have never really, we've done it one contract at a time with Sarah, with Madalena. And I think that we found that that's a way that we can operate and get a lot done because we don't have any city staff. But I think that we need to get the city council to ratify this, to approve our way of doing this. So I have drafted a few ideas of how we could get formal approval for ways to handle contracts less than $25,000. The public art ordinance is pretty complicated because it was mostly meant to be for developers who had paid into the Public Art Fund and then wanted to get reimbursed for art. That hasn't really happened since Isabel. And since then, we've taken the initiative for a lot more things. So I think it's time to get the City Council to acknowledge that we've been operating with contractors and directly with artists and things, and then we can keep going. If you all, we don't have to agree on every policy or every procedure. I would love to have your comments offline. This would be sent to the council for their December 10th meeting with a staff report from either Jay as our boss or whatever you want to call him, or perhaps Dr. Reddy. But you know, we've had so many gray areas because no arts commission has ever tried to do all this before. So, and the last one in my recommendations for what to do is that we ask the City Council to please suspend the mural ordinance until the end of June so that we can spend some time recommending revisions of it, because it has gotten awfully cumbersome and it doesn't necessarily get you any better murals, but it takes months. And since we've been doing things downtown, mailing notices of public hearings to people within 500 feet doesn't really bring it to the attention of the public in general. So I think we need to update some of this, or possibly maybe we don't need a mural ordinance anymore. But I'd like to have us have 6 months to try to work this out. And during those 6 months, if we try to do a mural, we won't have to go through the entire process. So I guess the first thing on our approval, our actual agenda, is to discuss this and approve sending this request to the City Council. So does anyone have any comments on what I've sort of laid out? This is meant to be a framework for it. And obviously if anyone has another way that we can really deal with the process. Russell?
Yeah, I would just jump in and say that I think you have laid out a very good setup of actually what we've been doing since February when we approved the CARES grant. And over the summertime when we were set down with COVID, the city should see that we have been extremely productive in promoting art, when a lot of it downtown, but with the bench project, the art activations we've done on vacant storefronts, that just shows to them, and presenting it to the City Council, it just adds proof that we are very responsible with the Arts Commission's funds. And we do it very effectively because we've been charged with the position to do this. So laying out a system for us and for the city that makes it easier for both of us to do the promotion of the arts, I think is a splendid idea. And with the framework that it's really through June of 2021, then if they see us doing something they don't want us to do, then we can readdress it next year. But I think it lays out a very perfect plan that just shows proof of how successful we've been in the last 6 months.
Jay, do you have the report that Tracy sent out just late today? And is it something we could put up on the screen? Or I can hold it up, but it's very, I mean, if you look at the sum total of these, I hope all of you got this, how many artists were paid and how many businesses were helped. And
So Chair Sheffer, if I can just follow up, and I think I agree with Russell, and I love seeing that these easy to read documents that really summarize what we've been doing. And I just think it's important to emphasize these bureaucratic rules have always been have always kind of created a kind of self-selection process among the kind of artists that we can work with. And I really think these are important steps towards really thinking about equity in our community and how artists can participate in this and share their art with us when we're able to work without so many restrictions. That in the past it was only artists who had like studios and galleries who we were able to work with. Now we're really able to work with different kinds of equally and perhaps even more interesting artists. So thank you all I think this is a really, really good effort in thinking about how the Public Art Commission can really bring more equity to its funding of the arts and artists in this community.
And if on this sheet, you'll see that we have paid an average of about $1,000 to 55 artists at a time when most of them are unemployed. And that was one of our goals, was to get money to artists. One of them was to help businesses draw people downtown, and to help with these parklets and the kinds of things that the city's been doing. I would also like to take just a moment to thank Cindy for helping us work our way through how to pay artists.
Thank you, Cindy.
You've been wonderful. I mean, and you've been very strict, but that's okay.
That's true.
I can see you talking to each other, just so you know. All right. Any other comments on this? I think if there's some wording you would like changed, just write me a note. But my intention is to send our mission statement, this the format we came up with for the CARES grants, this list of projects that Tracy's done, and then our requests for streamlining the process for the rest of the year while we figure out how to perhaps change the ordinance so that it will work better.
So we're just approving kind of the general idea, and then we can tune it up if we need to.
Right, but we will need to submit it, I would say the beginning of next week, so that it could, Jay or David or someone could write an introduction, a staff report that this is what we're proposing. We want to make Cindy write it because she knows. She's the only one who knows what we're doing.
Okay, so just in terms of so we're moving from item C1 to item C2 now?
No, we will, but that's okay. What we need is we need approval or a sense of the meeting, because it's not a specific, to send this report and a request for these policies to the city council for their approval.
Yeah, and if I could, it would be helpful if you actually vote on the specific request, because this is a formal ordinance change. So it's pretty clear what you've suggested and what you've provided in attachment B.
But we're at this point, we're asking just for temporary changes.
It doesn't matter. You can't suspend the ordinance on a temporary basis without changing the ordinance.
Then this is the list of what we would request from the city. Right. So I would be happy to entertain a motion to put this request to the city council to allow us to operate under these temporary procedures until we can address the whole issue. So through June 2021. Would someone like to make a motion? Tom, you're so good at this. Do you have the paper in front of you?
Sure, I'll make a motion to forward to the city our requests for temporary changes to the public arts ordinance to continue working on projects as we have been during this COVID emergency.
And the suspension of the mural ordinance.
And the suspension of the mural.
Period. Marcus, do you think that's enough, or do you, I mean, it will be all spelled out in the.
I'll need a second on that also, please.
Can I ask one question? It's a suspension of the mural ordinance for Public Arts Commission projects.
Right.
Correct.
Not for outside of the Public Arts Commission.
Right. Something that is sponsored by the Arts Commission can be done. The only ones really that wouldn't fit under this are something like, what's the cosmetics company on
Mac.
Blanking, but with the
or Mural Fest.
If we sponsored it, it would fall under our procedures.
So, Madam Chair, in regards to process, please keep in mind that this is amending a city ordinance and would require a public hearing, a first reading, a second reading at a public hearing, and then would not go into effect until 30 days after approval at the second public hearing. So it could be a few months before this takes effect.
Perhaps we could get the city attorney to address this, but if you look at the actual, I mean, we're simply saying that, making it clearer that the city manager can approve contracts under $25,000. The problem is that it's not in the ordinance at all, but it's been interpreted to mean that if the same company or contractor comes back for more than $25,000 in a fiscal year, then it has to go to the council. For example, we did 3 projects with the Main Street merchants, each one of which was under $25,000. However, by the time we got to the second one, we had to go to the council just for some more benches. And then we had to go to the council for some more benches. But each unit of it was within the amount that the city manager could have approved. Certainly once the original idea was approved. So why don't we work on making this not, it's just about internal procedures really that are not specific to the ordinance.
Maybe divorce the mural thing away from this, because I think
do that.
Well, I think also, like, I'm not comfortable with, I think if it's a mural that we, the Arts Commission, are paying for, I agree with that. But if we're sponsoring an event, I don't agree with that. I think it should go through the mural ordinance. If it's like, if it's something we are actually paying for, the entire thing, I think that was the idea, the thought behind it more than, oh, if we're sponsoring it. So if we're just giving someone $500 and then they don't have to go through all the mural ordinance work, I don't think we should go down that road. I think we should keep it strict to things that the Public Arts Commission pays for.
So that would be an amendment.
Yeah.
May I have a vote on just on this amendment, and then we'll do the whole thing again. And that is that we take off the last bullet point that refers to the mural ordinance. And so what we're talking about is really, I mean, there's a list of powers of the commission, but a lot of them have been interpreted within the city's way of paying checks or writing contracts, and when this was written, there was staff that could do all of this. We've had to do it with people who are trained to do this, but but I would be happy to, before this actually goes to the city council, to go over it with Cindy, perhaps about the contracting procedures. So I agree, we need to take out references. We're not amending the ordinance. We are asking for some flexibility within the things that we are allowed to do, just to make them, to enable us to do what we've been doing, which is with a couple of $1,000s, we just send the contract to Cindy with all the materials, and they write a check. If we had to send it, by the time we added up all $55,000 worth of artists, if we had to go to the city council, they would get tired of us.
Yeah, if we can just zap the mural, and then the mural thing probably has to be done by itself anyway, so that's great.
So we have an amendment to this request for temporary changes, that we delete any references to the mural ordinance. Would someone like to move that?
I'll move.
Tracy's moved it. Do we have a second? This is just removing the mural ordinance.
Second.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All in favor of that amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Opposed.
You're opposed. Okay. Then it's 5-1.
5-2.
5-2. Then may I have a motion to request these temporary changes, having taken out the mural ordinance? I need a motion.
So the
I'm
mural,
not sure. I'm not clear what we're voting on.
We are asking the city council to approve some temporary policies and procedures for how we get things paid, what amount of contract can be done without going to the city council, and that we are, it ratifies the fact that we have been writing contracts with people like Sarah Scheidman to do some of this work. That has never been acknowledged, that we could do that. And so each contract, it's like we start over again. You know.
So what were people objecting to? Not people want to leave the mural in this vote? Is that what people want?
Madam Chair, I didn't object, but I do have a question. Is this because of COVID-19? Does this just make things a lot easier for the Public Arts Commission?
That's part of it. Because we've been doing this without it being formally approved, that's how we got, not that page, Jay, the one before. Okay, it's these, okay. The last bullet point we are saying we're taking out.
Can I ask a point of clarification?
Yes.
So on the bullet points, the second one is temporary art installations initiated by the Public Arts Commission, in brackets, including murals.
Well, we'll take that out because we agreed that we were not going to.
So that one's coming out as well.
But didn't we just vote on that and it just failed?
It didn't fail. It passed.
Oh, it passed 5-2.
Right.
Okay, it would be helpful if Jay would let us know.
Okay. Sorry, you know, we don't usually.
Yeah, I don't think we have
the weeds like this.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
okay.
That's why I was confused.
But we're now asking for a vote on this with all reference to mural ordinance removed.
Unless you like saying that the Public Arts Commission's murals don't have to follow the procedure. And we don't know if the council will say yes. But if that is what would work better.
Well, if we kept bullet point, or the second bullet point, that if we're doing it, including murals, we can do it, but nobody else can, then I'm much happier with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy with us just having that ability, no one else.
I think that's what the second bullet point says.
Right. So we're just going to drop the fourth bullet point. Asking for the suspension of mural ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
Okay, any other comments on it? And again, this is going to be subject to a staff report, right. But the idea of this is to tell first the city manager and then the council how we would like to be able to operate for the rest of the year based on what we've been able to do. But each contract we've had to sort of negotiate, like how much was it and could we do it? All right, so now I would like a motion to submit this report and request to the city council.
Tom, are you up?
Tom, you want to do it? You're so good at this.
So we're making a motion to approve the first three bullets, basically.
Yes, because the amendment took away the fourth one.
Right. And that I will second.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that our request be submitted to City Hall concerning the three bullet points listed on the document attachment B, City Council approval to be requested at December 10th meeting.
And we'll come with the reports of what we've done so that it's in context. Okay,
we'll
any other comments? Jay, did you get Russell seconded?
Yeah, Russell second. We did not vote yet.
No, now we're about to. Okay, all in favor of this motion to submit this document as amended?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the chair votes aye, so it is 7-0. Okay, that was fun.
So now we're moving on to item C2.
To simplify our lives. I don't know. It might not.
Sometimes Zoom is hard.
Yeah.
Zoom can be hard.
Yeah.
All right. Thank our presenters. So just in case that, so they know.
Yeah, you don't need to be here anymore.
Right. Unless you're having fun.
If you're having as much fun as we are,
thank you very much.
Definitely stay.
We cannot formally vote because we haven't really seen the proposal. However, we can work with you the way we've been working on these mini grants, which means at least 2 commissioners work with you to make sure that it does fit, you know, those places and the language and whatever. We trust them to speak for the commission. And but I think what I heard was that the commission would like to see the final choices.
Yeah.
And but again, we agreed months ago in February that if 2 commissioners were working on with an artist or a group of artists, that they could submit that project for just whatever approvals it needed from the city.
And that's a lot of commissions. The one Mara mentioned. What was the name of that commission, Mara?
Human Rights.
The Human Rights Commission. I just think getting some input on language, you know, I know that anti-racist, like there's just like new words that are, you know, just like anything that are emerging from the social movements of the last year or more. And so it'd just be nice to check in with the Human Rights Commission and let them know that this is happening. I think that would be a good resource for us.
It would be a wonderful, I think it would add a lot of depth and potency to the messaging. We're super into partnering, so that would be wonderful if we could be put in touch with them. And I totally hear you on wording. I work as a marketing officer during the day. You can't.
We can't have you speaking because you're not on the agenda. You were just in the first part. So it's not.
We'll take it offline, as they say. Thank you all for coming. We're very excited about this, but you can see what we're grappling with is how to do these things in the best way possible, which is the expertise of a couple of commissioners and as little paperwork as possible. All right. Okay, I think we need to move on.
Can we move on to item C2?
Yes, item C2. Now, if you remember at the last meeting, the museum had proposed, since this year, when they're able to open, they're not going to be open on Thursday nights. So we can't sponsor our free Thursday nights, to which 55,000 people came last year. But there's no Village Fest for the foreseeable future and no museum open. So they proposed being open for free from 3 to 5 on Friday. And the arts commissioners who spoke felt that that was not a good use of city funds. And so I was asked to go back to them with something that would make the museum more accessible to more people in the community. One of which, an idea that everyone liked, was for them to begin the process of translating their website and their materials into Spanish. And I did talk to Grace Garner about how the city did it, and she gave me the name of the consultant that they used, especially about outreach into the Spanish-speaking community. So that's one of the things that they're now suggesting that they would do with the city sponsorship. The other thing is to, which we've already begun, help program the area from the museum between the park and the pit and up to Palm Canyon, really. So this is, because they don't know when they're going to open, they don't want to overpromise that they will get X number of people and, you know, they will do X number of programs, because I mean, this year could go by with them not being able to open. It depends on what happens to our, you know, our tier and everything. So these are two things that they can do, whether they're open or not. And they would like to do, and they would like to have the $50,000 that's in our budget, having been approved by the city council, to go for these. So I think we need to make a recommendation to the city council that this is what the money would be for this year. So I would like any comments on these two things.
One, is it possible for the museum, if we gift them with this $50,000, to do many grants we have done? For example, many grants.
I don't think so. This money was actually voted by the city council.
I understand. And my second question,
grants,
my second question, thank you, is I hear Hispanic, African Americans included in that anywhere, or what? I'm not clear about that.
Well, they want to make the museum more accessible in terms of communities that they market to, and that they involve. The Spanish translation was just one way to reach people that aren't being reached. And, you know, we talked about what we thought really wonderful programs we've done with the museum.
Yes.
And they're very willing to do it, but they just can't like promise it, because they really don't know if they're going to be able to open or when. Meanwhile, they're doing a lot online, and they're, you know, it's really just, we don't give money for just operating expenses, but I think this is money to keep them going and making some progress, even if they don't open. Mara, would you like to just comment on
yes,
this is a good, appropriate use?
I actually think it's a really it's great. I mean, as I think investment in projects that are in public in outdoor spaces is like kind of so COVID proof that I think it's really great. You know, look, what the museum is basically proposing is to work with an artist of Mexican descent and to outreach his Spanish-speaking community. And let's be very honest, this commission does not really represent the demographic of the city or the Coachella Valley. And I just, in terms of thinking about Latinx or Latinx community. And so I just think, I actually think it's actually a great solution. Because I think the reality is that the museum really may not open for quite some time, as we're looking at hearing from LA that they're going to do curfews. And I mean, once the new president, you know, is inaugurated, there may be other shutdowns. So I just think focusing on digital outreach, whether it's in translation and web-based stuff and projects in the outdoor realm, it just sounds like a really terrific solution. And I would be supportive of this this new scope of work.
Remember that we with Mara's leadership were able to do this wonderful extension of the Gerald Clark exhibit into our parks with the signage. And I think there's no reason that some of the museum programs could go further than that. This one site that we're still trying to get the sculpture on. Yeah.
So I just have a concern. The reading through the draft, it talks again about the art zone, and I'm just wondering, is that a little maybe too ambitious for the moment? I mean, it just sounds a lot, you know, a downtown art zone with the plot plan, the three sites. I'm just wondering, are we asking a little too much maybe of them given the position that they're in right now?
Well, you know, they are, a Luminaire house is going to go into their parking lot. And I think that they're eager to show that that's part of it, that's very accessible to the public, that they're moving outside of the doors of the museum. And so, and the language of the contract just says, you know, collaborate on trying to get this idea going. So it doesn't promise any particular thing, but I have to admit that I stole the language. They wrote a grant to the National Endowment for the Arts for, it was called Our Town Grants, and they proposed to really move their art out into the community, sort of radiating from the museum. And then I think didn't follow through with it. They were asking just for a planning grant. So if they're willing to, you know, keep moving things out and we can work with them, I think it's a good use of the city's money. And this car sculpture is going on city property. And basically, if they're going to loan it to us the way we have a loan of the art in the airport, in the regional terminal. So, you know, again, over the course of the last year, we've come up with contracts that work for various kinds of things. So we have a contract when an artist or an organization lends us a piece of art in public. We have contract if someone provides services or like Madalena is on a contract to do all the social media, and it's fabulous. But each time we want to keep going with her, we have to start over and write a new contract. So if we can use these as models, and I think that this one, I mean, correct me if you think that I'm reading too much into it, but I think it shows their intent to do this within whatever they're able to do.
So would this run, say this runs December to December?
Last year we gave them their $50,000 in January.
Okay.
They're not in the same fiscal cycle that the city is, but their year ends at the end of October or the beginning of October. And it was always a case of they had to report to us how many people came last year. So that was like in October or November, and then we would consider the contract, and it generally got paid out in January. So I think they would be quite grateful if we could get it to them by January, with the understanding that they probably won't be open yet.
Yeah, so I think the outreach to Spanish-speaking communities, I think they're so lacking in, and we've talked about it, and I think it's really important to, if we can help them jumpstart that, I think that is a really good use of funds during this time. And I think maybe this contract sets the stage to kind of renegotiate every year, right? So then, you know, next year we're like, okay, this is kind of what we're thinking, we'd like to work with you.
Right.
And have, you know,
programs that really
work. Because they kind of fell off the, you know, it just kind of became just a vote and give versus, you know, more dialogue on that. So I think that's great. And then if they could, they didn't give us a report this year of how many people came on Thursdays. So I wish they would, if we could ask them to give us that report, that would be really great, because we, you know, the free, I know it's kind of flipped that, oh, the money doesn't really, you know, it costs a lot of money to keep the museum open. But in the years prior, they were like, oh my God, you guys helped bring so many people to the museum. So it was like a different way of looking at the money. So it'd be good just to have them give us a yearly report on.
That's true, and each of the contracts in the past has said that they have to submit, I think it's even in this one, submit a report at the end of the year. So we'll make sure that we'll ask them to do it before this gets processed.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so may I have a motion that we recommend this contract to the City Council?
I will make that motion.
Okay.
I'd like to move that we continue the $50,000 donation to the museum with the provision that would do Exhibit A, description of programming, funding for the art zone, and Spanish language translation for projects and for the next fiscal year.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, so that is 7-0. And Cindy, if it's all right, we'll send it on to you for a staff report or whatever. You have to remember the money's there. The council's already approved the $50,000, but since this is a very different contract from before, I think that we should send it to just let the council see it.
Yeah, it will have to actually go to council to approve, because this is so different than the contracts that we have had. They will have to review your recommendations and make, you know, actually approve the contract before we can process.
Right, which is fine. I mean, because it's over $25,000, first of all.
Even though they've appropriated the money, yes, right, because the changes, it has to be approved.
Right. Right, but I thank you all for your suggestions last month, because, you know, I don't think they understood that 3 to 5 on Friday afternoons was not the same as Thursday nights when everyone was downtown and 55,000 people came. So, and the wonderful programs we did, like the African-American square dancing, which is still my favorite. That was great. And the labyrinth and all, we'll get back to that. But first we have to help them get open. So,
moving into section D, committee reports.
Yes, but before you do your update on what we're going to do, I wanted to just, I went back and looked at the minutes about this first maintenance report that we had approved. We actually approved it in August for $25,000, but we didn't have the whole list. Then in October, we tried to agree on a list during the meeting. And someone made the proposal that we start with $5,000 of the 25. Since then, with Tom and his subcommittee, we have a very complete list of the pieces they will do. And we've added to it that they are going to complete the inventory of all the pieces that we own, because we have a very out-of-date spreadsheet. And once we really have a list of everything that we own with their recommendations for what else needs maintenance. I mean, there's things in just terrible condition. So, so we now have, I suppose, we voted $25,000 once, and then we voted $5,000. Cindy, you tell me, should we just vote to do the full 25 based on the contract that we now have? Would that
well, I'm pulling up my notes from October, from the last meeting in October, and I thought that we approved 20,000.
But it turns out we had approved. I went back to the minutes before, I guess it was September. They were at the October meeting, and it said 25. So,
right. So well, I have 20,000 for the scope that they had presented at that time, and then another 5,000 for creating the digital database and the inventory. So it's a total of 25. It was just kind of broken up.
Oh, okay, but at the last meeting, I think we only officially approved the 5 to get started. So,
I don't recall that, but if that's in the minutes, I don't think that that's correct.
Cindy, if you're comfortable with the current list of projects and the inventory, then we should be able to go.
Well, let's ask Jay
to show that we.
I don't have the minutes, so Jay, do you have the official minutes? That's what I have in notes
for today.
For 25,000.
The minutes for today should show that we.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't.
The 2 pieces together, and it's now 25 altogether. We can just vote. I mean, just to make it official. But I went back, and we've been all over the map, and they still haven't had, they haven't gotten started on this project. So.
I thought what we took to council was a $30,000 contract.
That's for installing the sculpture of the car. And that, I looked back, the council approved it on November 9th, 2019. So there's just been a lot of things. I don't know if Marcus is still on, but finally, I think we're at the point where they can figure out where to install it so it won't fall through into the parking garage. And Arlene tells me that they're ready to go pretty soon.
Yeah, I think that's the meeting Marcus said he's having tomorrow, is to finalize it.
So that's old news. I just wanted to make sure, because we had talked about, this is the first of several maintenance contracts, but we went back and forth about how much was ready to go and whether it should include this inventory. And then Councilmember Woods told us we had to do something about the sort of sail-like sculptures on Gene Autry. So it's all wrapped up in there. So if we're good as far as consensus that this is set, now I'd like Commissioner Yanni to tell us what comes next.
Can I ask one question? I thought they had said for us to come back about that sale thing, because we don't.
Right.
That's not part of our.
What's in the contract is they're going to tell us what would have to be done to them.
Okay.
Because they're not on our inventory. It's a little bit of a mystery hunt as to, how they got there. So just put it in as something to be considered by the art collective.
Right, and those are on Highway 111, I believe. It may actually be Caltrans art projects.
Right.
Yeah,
they belong to Caltrans. I don't know.
Yeah, they probably do.
Dr. Reddy said
they're not art.
But we have this really competent art collective that will go and list them and tell us, what, if anything, can be done to them. And in the meantime, we'll try to find someone who remembers how they got there.
Yeah, I'm sure it's in a contract, and hopefully the city will pay for it themselves if they want it done. Because it may belong to Caltrans. I mean, we might have had nothing to do with it, but that's what we're going to find out. And it's a treasure hunt. Sounds good.
Tom.
Okay, so for our meeting, our subcommittee hasn't met because the project hasn't moved forward because we're still waiting for their contract. But just what we're hoping to achieve is once they get their contract finalized, they will go ahead with this database, which has already been started, as you know, with the pieces that they've already worked on. So essentially what we're approving in this contract is that list that we all looked at in the previous meeting, either in, I think it was actually in September. You remember there was like the list of about 20 pieces that we had in the meeting. So those are the first pieces. There's a couple of other pieces that we've added in that are sort of priority pieces. And so we're trying to get those, so those are the ones, those are just maintenance of ones they've already done. So so now that's about a third to a quarter of the collection. So once they go through and assess the rest of the collection, then we'll come up with sort of list B, list C, and our goal. So they think that December and January, they can continue the work on the maintenance phase and all that. They expect to get the preliminary list done by our next meeting in December. So then at that point, we can talk about, the pieces and which ones will be in the next phases. And then essentially, we're trying very hard to, one, get all the pieces in this database that can, that has accurate information, and two, make sure that all the pieces have some attention and the care that they need in this calendar year. So essentially their contract would go through the end of the fiscal year at the end of June, but understanding, I just want to make sure everyone understands. So the contract that we've already approved for the past, that's for the maintenance of the pieces that have already been done, plus the database, plus a small contingency in case there's bigger issues. We will need to come back and ask for additional funds to do the additional work that we need to do once the assessment is done by Art Collective.
Oh, great. And I think it would be great if we made it our goal to at least get through the list by June 30th. Now, realizing what time it is, since Tracy sent us a written report on the CARES grants and Patrick has sent some reports that we'll send to you, and Madalena, I think reports can go out directly to commissioners just to keep up. I would like to just go to item E, and Commissioner Favreau has said that she had a proposal to bring to the, I don't know if it's ready to be voted or just you want to just tell us what your, who is this? That's so cute.
Oh, this is Decoupage, the Chiweenie. And every time I'm on the phone on Zoom, he always runs in and sits on my lap. But I'm hoping to get the city's first interactive bench acknowledged about Section 14 and get an approval for up to $2,500, but not to exceed $5,000 to create an interactive QR code platform and a plaque in aiding the healing process of Section 14's commemorative bench. And also to get an approval of it being a permanent or a semi-permanent historical piece of artwork so it doesn't get painted over in the neighborhood. So they have that area to go and reflect and to interact with the bench because of
this came up at the city council meeting about Maryland. The idea that, which a lot of cities are doing, of having these QR codes on a sculpture or nearby that take you to a website that presents the issue and the various interpretations or whatever. And we had already had, and I would like us to pick up a proposal to do an AIDS memorial that would be an abstract piece, but again, would have a QR code that would take you to a website with the names of all the people who had died of AIDS. So I think, Shonda, we should try to roll this idea into a sort of a plan to do this for other places as well. And I don't know that, I mean,
can we get it approved for just this one place to start with?
We're probably not the final approval. You know, it's more a policy than the art itself. Unless you have a, you know, if you have a design for the plaque already, we could say we like the design, but I don't know. I think we need to sort of maybe add this to our list of things we'd like to know if this is something that the council would let us do. Because I think this is just an example of the first one of these. There's, you know, I don't know, Mayor Bogert. I mean, there are pieces that provoke controversy and different interpretations. I think.
But why do we need to get approval for like descriptive signage for something we've commissioned?
We don't, I don't think, but it's when you.
But sharing that information is important. But
is it part of the bench? Where is it?
What bench is this?
This is at James O'Jesse, right? I think we could do it.
Madam Chair,
I'm going to do the site where the QR code goes.
It would be located on the side of the bench, and hopefully also a plaque commemorating the Section 14. The city hasn't acknowledged it, and I was hoping that through art we can start the healing process as well as get a mural when that ordinance is approved in order to commemorate what has happened. These are just beginning steps of trying to link the healing process and information. And not a lot of people know all the different websites. I would like to work with the historical society with it as well. They have a series of oral of of things that they've collected, which I think would be important to get a QR code. So if you're interacting with the bench, you can actually hear the oral history of what happened. It's just,
anyone have a picture of the bench? Because it has a newspaper, right? And a newspaper headline. Sarah, do you have a copy of what it looks like?
So is this an idea to make a website? Because a QR code you can just make, yourself. Is this like
to go somewhere?
Yeah, is that the idea, is just to make a website? Is this what the money pays for?
Or does it go to the Historical Society's website?
Not on the historical. It's also to link all these places together. The idea behind it is that if you're walking down Palm Canyon or in James O'Jesse or in Demuth, wherever there's a piece of artwork, there would be an interactive code that would link you to all the websites to educate you about that piece of bench. This is just the first process of trying to get approval to get these codes on the bench. So a series of different websites can be put onto those codes. So the bench is interactive. So you are learning about that particular article, as well as the oral history that's happened, as well as all the information you could possibly get to educate you about this bench.
Do we have someone who can do that not with the Arts Commission, but
yes,
we can do a plaque and a QR code, but it has to go to something.
It has to go to, someone has to make this website.
Right. And it would be preferable if it was, for example, the Historical Society, and we could do it with them. I mean, that
we could, I'm sorry, we could easily create the codes and link them to a certain page on the website, on our PS Public Arts website. If we went into the descriptions.
If we start to have a lot of sculptures or pieces of art that really would benefit from having some background information, I think we could give them each a page, but then they ought to go to someplace with really a more extensive discussion of it.
Yeah, because we are going to do a QR code with the map, and then you'll use the QR code to go to a page on our website that will have the list of all of the, all of our pieces of art with the with their location in town. So that's what I'm confused about what the money is for, because you can make the QR code for free, but if we're creating some kind of other website or what,
creating
another. Can I ask a question? And can I ask a question and bring up a concern? So is this basically an interactive, didactic, or like interpretive text that we as the commission are attaching to the artwork? Or is it like part of the artwork? Is it an interactive component of the artwork? Because I think those are two very important distinctions. Exactly. And I think in terms of this commission putting content online, and this is like just my academic research background, but in like an age of like, you are your own truth, like it's very important that whatever we're linking to is vetted and is like serious and of course it is, but I feel like there are there's two separate things happening and that are possible. Whereas if it was like an artist's, like, this is a link to my story about this, which I'm, gathering information all these ways, that's one thing. But if it's us sort of saying this is an interactive wall label, which is really I think the future for us, which is really cool, a cool idea. This just merits us really thinking through where that content's coming from. Like, that's why Anne's suggestion to partner with the Historical Society is kind of an interesting idea, And, you know, they might even have some research, some materials already available to us that can, including photos, that can really like amplify what the goal of this, you know, this contemporary public project is. So anyway, I would be happy to sort of go offline in a subcommittee to like talk a little bit more about this, but I do think it just merits some more conversation.
Well, and I love the idea that you just threw out, which is artist statements, because most of our benches, even that, you know, there was an artist statement, or that we have them on our website when they register. So I think, Shonda, absolutely, we can have a code that takes you somewhere to learn more about the bench, like the artist, and many other things. And that could go to our website. But then we need to decide where else to send people. Like if you want more information about this, maybe it's more than one site. It's you can go to the Historical Society, or you can go to this. But we can't, you know, we're not equipped to write the two sides of it, or the, you know, the pictures and the.
What I was asking for, I was simply asking for the bench quotes a Desert Sun article. The bench doesn't say that it's the Desert Sun, but it's a quote from the Desert Sun that would, so people would know where that particular statement from the bench came from. And
so we could run the whole article, for example.
Yeah, to put the link the whole article, all the information that the bench evokes. For instance, the Historical Society has oral documents and oral and actual documents of the whole process of what happened, and there should be those codes should take them there. So it's basically linking the marriage of public arts and Historical Society and the Palm Springs website, that you could go to that website, just linking everyone together, that the bench is more interactive, more informative, that you'll be able to get more of an education and not just looking at a bench and wondering what it is. So
but I think we could agree that
have the artist statement, as well as the article, as well as all the information and what happened, the history that happened behind the bench. And I know very,
I think that
I know that with This Is City, this is a very point of contention. I'm just trying to aid the healing process, that people have a place to sit, contemplate, read the article, read the information, and really understand what happened, and know that the city is in the process of not covering this up anymore. And this art is able to heal and join those two matters together in order to create something that the city hasn't done yet. And by public arts being that conduit, we could be able to link, you know, some kind of healing art and a moment that we're able to now interact with other benches. When you're walking down the street, if you're on Google Maps, then this bench pops up and say, oh, wow, this artist is here, this bench, this information is here. This is an ongoing process for all the pieces of artwork, but I think this is a very important place for us to start. So we are.
But I think what we're hearing is that as the Arts Commission, with a very good website, it's entirely appropriate to link, to have a QR code that takes you to a page in our website and has a statement from the artist. And in this particular case, because she has a section of an article from the Desert Sun, the rest, everything else needs to link to somebody else that has this information, because we're just not equipped to do that.
Right. I mean,
I would also reach out to the tribe and ask them for information also.
They also have a YouTube that's already up that it would also link to that. This is just a matter of linking all the information you could possibly find.
Yeah, you can only have one link and a QR code. That's why I was asking that. It just goes to one place. It doesn't.
Right, it's going to go to our website, and then our website is going to have as many sites as you would like to provide, where else you can get more information. But our job is to get someone who sees this bench to the website where they hear what the artist was trying to do. Mm-hmm. And as I say, in this case, because she has an excerpt from this article, I think we should print the whole article. But also, I don't think we can go any further with any bench, because we'd be in the, we'd be the Historical Society. We need to get people to them because they have done all the research. Also, the national exhibit at the Smithsonian with Section 14 that is owned by the tribe. So there is information out there. And I have to say that some healing has taken place, maybe, and this is a first through the, I would say, arts somewhat. There have been some things, but it's an ongoing process. I agree. So, Madalena, so if we start putting QR codes on things, what do we need to do? Can they be painted on, or do they need to be more, precise? Do they need to be printed in some way? Does anyone know this? Or
it would probably be good to do like either a sticker or a sign, and maybe come up with a standard sign.
Right, because I think
it shouldn't be painted. It won't work with everybody's phone
right.
It could just be printed or a sticker or
printed. What do you think, Mara? Would that work? Or something a little more permanent than a sticker?
Yeah, like an actual.
I'm just confused. Would it be adhered to the surface of the bench, or do you think there's some kind of for Gerald's project, we just printed these small signs, that could just kind of be screwed into a signpost that's already there. Or is it something like, did you want something like, in the ground, or I actually think something like that sort of laminated sign that similar to what we used for Gerald's probably will be the most durable. I just don't know how you would adhere it or anchor it to the bench, but I imagine there are probably some good places to do it. That's probably the best thing to do, but having something that's easily replaceable and, easy to wipe clean and also really durable. So probably looking to that street sign is what, because QR codes probably don't read well on cast bronze. So,
that's a good
but we want something that we really could adhere. So,
well, and it could be not on a bench, but on some artwork, I could see it just being screwed on like a plaque. And we've done some plaques, Russell, I think, on the ground.
Well, yes, and as a matter of fact, tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we're installing the plaque at the Rainbow Totem on the corner of Uranus and Celia. So that work, it's aluminum, bolted to ground, etched, and then indent painted. So very durable, very long lasting. They can be any size. And then,
but is the aluminum like a finished metal surface, or is it like black text on white, or is it
It's grooved out, so black text on brushed aluminum.
Yeah, I just wonder if there are some visibility issues with the QR codes. I'm not.
Yeah, you'd have to test it, because the ones that the museum did for the show a couple years ago, they were QR codes that were within the woven fabric. They didn't work, right? They just looped forever. So yeah, so it just has to be really clear so people's, all different kinds of phones can read it.
Okay, so I think that this is not something we need to get permission for. We already put our hashtag on benches.
Right.
We're going to work on a QR code, Madalena, that will take us to a page on the website. And then we're going to collectively figure out what it should be made of so that it can go. And then if you want to start assembling the things that go on the page, like where else to go, and which we've done like with the Gerald Clark, there's a lot of information, but then there's some sources where you can go and get more. Okay, I think it's great. And you've just inspired us to do it for more things. So it doesn't strike me as something that it's just an extension of what we're doing. We've had on our website stories about some of the pieces and quotes from the artists. And so we have to see if we can make this QR code thing work to go.
Okay, just to make sure, I'll be working with Shonda in developing these pages.
Yeah, and
okay.
But somebody, the question of the physical, what it's made of, we might have to, maybe Russell can ask the guy who made this plaque for something that would be durable, but readable by your phone. So I imagine if it gets messed up, it won't work very well.
Yeah, the plaque we're doing tomorrow is made by Best Signs on Gene Autry, so you can just consult with them.
Okay. So is everybody good with that? I think we'll try it with this, and then we'll do it with some other things.
Under the $2,500 is that?
That was it was a guesstimate because the city, when I contacted the city, I wanted to get a historical plaque and they didn't have something that was done recently.
The commissioner is on board for that $2,500.
I don't think that we would get away with doing a historical plaque. I think this is a much more, relates to the art more.
We won't know unless we try. I mean, I would like to at least be given the respect of trying to do something that's outside.
I think you'd have to apply. That's the thing. You'd have to apply to the city to have something dedicated a historical. Like we can't just decide that we want to make something a historical piece. Like you'd have to apply to the city for something like that.
And that would be all a part of the process. But in order to even start to even figure out how much the plaque would cost, how much
something the Arts Commission wants.
We can't do just a plain old plaque. We've come up with a really cool idea for how we can do a QR code that gets people to see the information you want to see them. I think you'd have to go to another city department to just do a straightforward plaque that has writing on it. That's not, it's just not, I'm sure that if we tried to write something, someone would say, wait a minute, that's not your job. I don't know.
Actually,
what do you think? Yeah.
I think it's great if you want to make a recommendation, you can do that, but that will have to go to council for approval. So if you want to vote on a recommendation about this issue, it would need to be specific about what you're wanting, but that ultimately will need to go to council to approve.
But
I'd like to make another recommendation, Shonda. I actually think this is something that's the Human Rights Commission, I know one or two of the commissioners have actually engaged seriously in some of these histories and have been actually reading texts. And so I actually think we should, maybe we can bring this to our next meeting with some language that we want to recommend, and maybe in partnership with the Human Rights Commissioners, so that this can be like kind of a shared, I just know they've already been thinking a lot about this as well. And so I think, I would certainly support us making a recommendation. Perhaps we can develop the language together and bring this up for a vote at the next meeting.
That would be great, especially if we're using the art as a jumping off point for things. But I think we can go ahead in the meantime and figure out how to do the QR codes, because we have lots of art that's worth discussing and getting. And we were just talking about these electric boxes, which we're going to talk to the Human Rights Commission about also. So I think just don't take more than 3 of you, because we once did that. We had a meeting with the Parks Department and we got busted for having too many arts commissioners in the meeting.
And that also brings me to another question with the fact that we're hopefully these boxes will evolve and they also will have a QR code on it too. The QR code is something that I would like to implement for it to be more interactive for everything and not just this one thing, but it is a jumping off point. But I'm also curious for the boxes project, why can't it be a project of its own? Why does it have to go under the CARE program? Because it is something like the benches that I would like to continue doing, like on other streets, different neighborhoods and whatnot. Are you just saying that it has to go through the CARE because the neighborhoods, or
no, because if it's not under the CARES program, where we all agreed that up to $5,000 could be spent on a project that was proposed by 2 commissioners, it didn't have to go to the full commission. It didn't have to go to city council, as long as it fell within those kinds of policies. So what we're saying is that if you do it as a CARES grant, you don't have to bring it back in December, which you would have to do otherwise. And then we would have to send it to the city council if it's, if it's not within this little universe we've created of projects that are in a neighborhood or helping a business or whatever. So, and helping another commission like the Human Rights Commission is also one of the things we said we wanted to do. We're doing things with the Parks Department. We can do things with the Human Rights Commission. And that's in our mission statement, is to do more with other parts of city government. So, to get all these different organizations on board and working together. That's my only mission in this, is to get more people to the table and more people represented. And we've just gotten Mara, really, who's done this with the Gerald Clark, with other projects, sort of knows where the buttons are in the city to get something installed. As simple as that. So I think, why don't you 2 just work it out? And if you run into any, interference, that's what I do, is I run interference. Just try to find a way, through the maze that you can do it. So don't think of it as being relegated to that. Think of that as a way to get it done, and sooner rather than later. Okay. Okay. And I think it's a great idea. And I'm so glad you proposed it, because we've all got thinking of other ways we could give some context to the art. First, what the artist was trying to do. And then, if it's something controversial, then you get both sides of the story, maybe. All right. Some of us I have 2 granddaughters, and they brought their 2 dogs because they're going to school remotely. So I think I have to go back and do that. Jay, we have reports from directors and staff, but I did get clarification from Monique that they don't know when the interviews are going to be for these 2 commissioners whose terms will expire on December 31st. But we're not to worry, because they'll just be extended until they can get reappointed.
That's correct. That's my understanding also.
Okay. And
so what does that mean?
That means that they will set up interviews, but they haven't done it yet.
Right. And what the chair had said was that if replacements are not selected by the time your term expires, you would still be able to continue in your capacity as a commissioner.
So they're just thinking maybe January instead
So
of.
basically, Tracy, we're month to month.
Right. Like a lease. Think of it as a lease.
But if they could give us some more definite answer on that.
If they could, we would have gotten it. We've all been pestering them.
Yeah, I don't really.
That's where it is. However, the second thing that I will put off to the next meeting, but 4 commissioners will have finished their second term in June. And so I think that we have to actively look for people who can bring something to this commission, who are diverse, who some of them are artists, some of them. So I encourage you to do that.
Yeah, I've already got.
If they don't have interviews soon, Shonda's going to be the only person who's still on the commission. So you'll have to just do this all by yourself.
Sorry, so what are all of us expiring
June
in
30th.
July?
June 30th is you and me and Al and Tom.
I'm sorry, I'm getting some back
job. Russell and Tracy's terms should have expired last June 30th, but the council just extended everyone's terms, any commission, to December 31st. They will have finished their first term whenever this finishes. And so they can be reappointed for another term. You and I and Al and Tom in June will have finished 2 terms, and that's all we can serve. So 4 commissioners will go off on June 30th. And I think we should start thinking about either replacing ourselves or replacing someone. Now, I did learn today that there are 12 applications, counting people who applied when Shonda was selected. They just keep them, and then they call them when there are interviews and see if they're still interested. But in June, I think we really need to have, people to choose from. So.
Madam Chair, excuse me, didn't we vote a couple of years ago to extend the chair even if the term expires?
No, I think we just voted that someone could be chair for more than a year.
Right.
I mean, we don't control anything but the city council appoints people. So all we can do is elect a chair, which we've been doing lately in September. And I think that's probably a good time because there tends to be less activity in the summer, and then you start up. And, at the rate they're going, those of us whose term expires on June 30th may still be here on August 31st. Who knows?
Can we just make a suggestion that people actually come to the meetings? Because, the directions say that people should attend the meetings before they apply so they know what the commission does. And I haven't seen much of that.
That's very good.
I went to many meetings before I even applied because I thought that was what I was supposed to do.
And it's so easy now. I mean, it's on Zoom, it's relatively easy.
I don't think, we don't want to just get all of a sudden somebody appears on the commission who's never been to a meeting or, anything like that. I think, if we should stick to what the directions say and ask people to, to come and learn more about it before they just submit an application.
Yeah, I agree. That's a requirement, at least 2 meetings.
Maybe sometime in, April or so, we can, it's like a call for artists, just say that there will be openings on the Arts Commission, but that you have to come, maybe we'll do it in March so they could come in April or May or June.
Well, that's something we could put on the social media platforms, right?
Just to encourage people.
A couple individuals participating tonight that were not presenters or commissioners.
Good, great.
That's right. The woman from the tribe, Margaret, had she let you know she was coming? Did she have it? Okay. because Michael Emery, who is the Mural Fest, I had told him that if he wanted to speak at this meeting, it would have to be in the public comments. And he wrote me a notice, he left. Was I supposed to say something? So I'll circle back and tell him. All right, the last thing is, any other commissioners have a request or a comment? I'm sorry we go so long, but.
I just have a quick comment. I just want to commend everyone who's worked on these benches. I love seeing more of them and going up Palm Canyon and seeing, posting photos of them and things like that. And so everybody who's worked on those and on the storefronts and everything else, they're just terrific. So thank you so much for doing all that.
And Jeffrey Bernstein from PS Resorts is going to make a poster like the doors of Palm Springs. We're going to do the benches, which I think will be great, and he'll sell it, and we're going to try to have some kind of a map so that, if you see one, you could look up and see where the rest are.
Just walk down the street.
I know. But at least, maybe we'll do another press release or something that says, okay, we're done. One of the tricky things, and Russell will tell you, is that he counts all the benches and we pick all the artists and then we go back and the city's moved the benches. or a bench had a back and they put a bench that doesn't have a back. So it's hard to keep up with them.
So other comments from anyone before we adjourn?
I think the poll looks good, Russell.
Thank you.
The totem, yes, very nice.
Totem, yeah.
Yeah, it's getting very good social media presence through Friends of the Artist Connection. So once we get the plaque up, would be good. And then just a quick note on the benches, starting next week, as we've done the selection, all the benches, South Palm Canyon, South Indian Canyon, and 3 on Talkwitz will be done in the next couple of weeks, and the airport. So moving along.
And Mara, did you want to say one last thing?
Yeah, I share the commend our commissioners for all the good work they've been doing during this time. I also simply would like to express my disappointment about that the decision about the E. Stewart Johnson sculpture of Marilyn Monroe was presented and discussed and debated by City Council without any request for input from the Public Arts Commission. I would just like to state that. I think it's a surprise. I think it's something that we should have at least been given simply just the opportunity to provide a statement before. And I'm kind of, I'm a bit offended, to be very honest. All of us on this commission give a lot of our time to thinking holistically about art in this city. And it's like all of a sudden they're talking about it and there's an agreement and there's a decision made. And, I think, so anyway, that's all. I'm just going to express my disappointment. I have some concerns about where the funding to install that artwork is going to come from. And I think this is a very important thing for us to think about. The city spent a lot of time talking about equity and diversity in the city. And I'm just really disappointed that there wasn't more conversation about how Maryland can benefit, really, if it's installed in other parts of the city, how it can really benefit and in the business development in other parts of the city. And that's just very important for the city broadly. And I think it's a bit short-sighted to be placing this thing in a site that that already has quite a bit of public art in it. In any case, I don't understand why the commission wasn't simply asked to make a statement.
Very good point. And it goes back to what our ordinance says. We're basically supposed to collect money from developers and reimburse them if they put art. There's nothing in it that says that major artworks in the city should at least be reviewed. And I think that we should really put our minds to rewriting these ordinances. I mean, you heard Marcus say that we can't just ask them to change it. We'll have to come with a whole set of revisions, and there'll be a public hearing. But you know, no arts commission before has ever tried to have a policy about art or to discuss why we're doing it. And you know, our mission statement talks about the role we'd like to play. But now we have to put it into the language of what we're allowed to do.
I understand that this commission has very little power in many important, the biggest and most important ways. It's just simply that this is a commission that has citizens on it who are asked about like every other artwork in the city. I just don't understand why this commission wasn't asked for that opinion. And it speaks to some issues
beyond our ordinance is that, you know, when I did that application the other week, it says that, you know, commissioners serve to provide guidance and you know, to the city council when asked. So that is part of what you're on a commission for, beyond just the arts ordinance, is that commissioners are here to provide guidance and opinion to the city council with our experience and everything when, you know, when asked. And I you know, I second what Mara said, that, you know, we also will bear the brunt of, everyone will feel that we're the ones that made this decision as well. And you know, I think everyone knows how I feel about this sculpture, that I thought that it should not come back, and that it, you know, I would like to move Palm Springs much more forward and think much more about equity and artists that aren't represented here, and the type of art that we embrace as a city, and not just have it be commercialized, and thinking about the space downtown that we already put a street into, and now we're going to take a street out to put this sculpture up. When, you know, if we're going to have it, it could go somewhere else in town. So I just second all of those.
Well, I think that, you know,
ideas and thoughts.
Madam Chair, can I say something? They were on our agenda at one of our public arts meetings, if you remember, the Maryland structure.
It was a study session, and it was just a public comment.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. You know, to look at those minutes, because we discussed that.
Yeah, it was at the museum a couple years ago.
The trouble is, we tried to discuss Mayor
It should be in
Beverly
our minutes somewhere.
a couple of years ago.
Right. Right.
And, you know, just got a lot of it. It's a fine line between the political reasons for doing some of these things and the aesthetic reasons.
But I agree with Mara.
There's a combination. But, you know,
I'd like to see Muhammad Ali.
I think that we should, if someone wants to, you know, draft a statement, a request, we could go over it at the next meeting and see if we have consensus. And, you know, we can go on record as saying, this is the things that we would like to contribute to this kind of decision.
And we need to look at our minutes. We need to look at, excuse me, Madam Chair, we need to look again at our minutes from that meeting when they gave a presentation.
The trouble is, I think that this one is a done deal, Maryland. The only thing they've said is that they are willing to really try to evaluate the impact it has on attendance at the museum, or you know, reactions to it once it's there. And I think that they agreed that it was for 2 years. Is that right, Jay? And then they would evaluate it instead of 3, or was it 3?
I think they're still working out those details. That it's like, again, like a lease. It may be a 1 year with another year option, or 2 year option, something like that.
The thing is, as we all know, it's not like that easy to move a 2-ton piece of art anywhere.
Yeah, and how is it not going to sink into the parking garage like every other idea?
Because it's on the road. The road is solid because it holds cars.
Wow.
The park is not so solid.
And I think it was $2 million to make this happen.
First of all, I know some of you wrote public comment, but I think it would be worthwhile to draft, maybe look at our mission statement and add a part about how, we would like the Arts Commission to be, to be able to discuss, and maybe we're the ones that should have held a public hearing, though we tried that. I'm not sure we should do that again, unless Jackie Autry really has moved. But anyway, this is worth now if you like, we could have a study session and just talk about this kind of thing. To draft something, we could have a study session where we kind of wordsmith it.
We need to find the minutes, just the minutes. I'm telling you, Madam
That's
Chair.
just about Maryland, and I think some people are talking about in general being.
I understand.
More part of the, we're part of the process for a mural, and for some reason, murals got their own special ordinance.
Yeah, it might be worth maybe this is a jumping off point to say to the city council that, we're volunteering a lot of time to the city, and we would like you to, we would like to be able to express our advice on these matters that
I think it's perfectly reasonable to do that, because I think that's why I want to amend the ordinances, because I think it's really evolved. We generate so many more programs. We don't just react to approving something that someone wants to do. And so, especially before the 4 of us go off, I think it's worth putting this into writing, maybe into the mission statement, just make it clearer. And then, that can be our parting advice to the city council. But I also think that more than other city councils, they would be inclined to listen to us because they talk about some of the same issues. And I think they're very conscious of diversity and, what the art represents as far as our community. So, I'm happy to have if you guys are,
we need to find the minutes. We voted on it.
All right.
I'm telling you, we did.
It doesn't matter.
We didn't vote on it, but we
That was 4 years ago. That was over 4 years ago.
No, it was just a couple of years ago, Al, because I was.
And the gentleman came
the minutes are on the city website. You just click on them for the date you want. They're all there.
All right, are we ready to adjourn?
They're not putting video up that much anymore. All right. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion. Hello.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this Public Arts Commission meeting to our next regular meeting to be held Wednesday, December 16th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. via teleconference.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for hanging in here this long. By the way, if it ever comes up again, maybe we can petition not to meet at 5:30. That's just killing dinner time.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Could we all threaten to resign, except we're all getting pushed off anyway?
Maybe we could do it on, Saturday afternoon when lots of people would be free, artists and things. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right,
Hey,
let's
Jay,
work on the QR code. Madeline sent me a text.
One question for Jay before he goes up. Jay, who's going to reach out to us? Do you know?
Reach out to you in terms of
the city clerk.
City clerk.
City clerk. Okay.
And I'll keep after her to make sure we get notice. And I'd also like to know who from the council is interviewing this year, because I think they were debating that themselves.
She had said Christy and Grace, but I don't know if that's right. So.
Oh, it could be. I mean, I think a decision's been made somewhere. We're just not on the list yet to get told. All right, go home and eat dinner.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Yeah.